Hello, everyone. I'm here with Eric Patrizzo from Castcapa Construction today. He's the managing director there. Welcome, Eric. We're going to be talking today about some New York construction issues. So welcome. And why don't you please just tell us a little bit about Castcapa?
Stephen. So thanks very much for having me. So Castcapa Construction is a full-service exterior restoration company focusing on facade restoration, roof replacements, and sidewalk replacements. We do various work around the building, such as fire escapes and other minor punch list items. Our focus is on the 5 boroughs: New Jersey, Westchester, and Long Island. Our company, I joined Castcapa back in 2018, and our company's revenue has grown 10 times since that point. So we've had some pretty good years of gaining market share, and we're very excited about 2023.
Sidewalks, roofs, and facades. Can you just tell us, from a complexity standpoint, how those rank?
Yeah, I'd certainly put facades at number one, mainly because rigging a building could be the most challenging part. A birthday cake building that has different setbacks could require different drops or multiple drops in the same location. Knowing the type of roofing system, if you have a wood deck or a steel deck, so where you can actually put your tiebacks into. Can you use outriggers? Can you use C-hooks? Those are some of the challenges on the facade side. The physical work of the brick repointing, stone replacements, sealant, lintel work isn't as challenging as the rigging part. Roof and sidewalks, I think, are pretty comparable. The biggest thing for both of them is the unforeseen conditions. For a sidewalk, it's knowing if there's a vault underneath, and if there is, what kind of waterproofing, what kind of height you have from where the ceiling of that vault is. For the roofs, it's knowing, again, what kind of supporting system is underneath there. Also understanding what type of roofing system you're going to be using there. So those two, I would say, are a close second, but facades are certainly the most challenging.
You had mentioned right before we started speaking off camera, you had mentioned that the beginning and the end of the projects are sort of the biggest challenges. So can you elaborate how the beginning is more challenging, particularly, I guess, with facade projects?
Right. So yeah. So for facade projects specifically, we at Castcapa always ask our clients for an LOI, letter of intent. Once the LOI is issued, we start the process of preparing the CD5, which is how we're going to be, the type of scaffolds we're going to be using, where we're going to be mobilizing, how we're going to be tying everything back, and the site safety plan. Those two components need to be done in a quickly time manner because they require the DOB approval, and the DOB could sit on these items from anywhere from 2 weeks all the way to about 8 weeks. On the building side, what's really challenging is getting those neighboring access agreements finalized.
Do you find that when you're doing, let's say, like local law 11 work for facade work, do you typically have to get an access agreement for your neighbors? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, we have about 10 facade projects going on right now, and I would say majority of them have access agreements. And of that majority, about half of them have multiple access agreements, which is requiring the buildings council to get involved, requiring both the contractor, building, and neighboring buildings insurance broker to get involved, as well as the type of protection you're going to be using on that terrace or over that space to protect it.
I know you had just alluded to neighboring properties insurance. I know I see some issues on my end from the legal side, but I'm just curious what you see on your side. Like what issues do contractors or buildings run into?
Well, the insurance brokers for most of the Manhattan high rises, and I should even say New York City high rises, have educated the property management companies that a certificate of insurance is insufficient to confirm that a contractor has the proper coverage. And they've asked for the underlying policy behind that. Specifically, what the insurance brokers are looking for is to make sure that, one, the contractor doesn't have any residential exclusions, height restrictions, or equipment restrictions, and two, typically has 1 to 2 million of primary coverage on the GL and about 8 to 10 million of excess umbrella coverage. This is enough money for a building to feel that the contractor has the proper coverage.
I guess in the bidding process, even though the specifications require the types of insurance coverage that you're talking about, unfortunately, they don't vet the contractors, I guess, in advance. And then after the contract is signed, we find out that they don't have the proper insurance. So I'm curious, from your perspective, have you seen, management companies or the engineers during the bidding process actually ask for your policies, or does it usually come after the fact?
So since I started in 2018 here, early 2019 even, it has been probably in the last 2 years become a significant requirement. Engineers have included on their specifications. They typically don't get involved of reviewing the policies. They typically provide that directly to the managing agent so that they can provide to the insurance broker. But it has become a prequal to get on the bid list, to meet with certain to be able to bid on that, and depending upon which entity you're working with, whether it's a management company or a private industry like an NYU or Columbia, they may have certain limit requirements on top of that as well. So the insurance has certainly evolved. The brokers have really educated the management companies and have become very due diligent.
I've definitely seen that trend, and I think it's really helpful if actually the insurance issues are flagged, because the less qualified contractors will get screened out, before a bid is awarded, and you're not sort of slowed down later trying to get additional coverage, or just realizing that the contractor is not qualified to do the project.
And I would tell you that one kind of little tidbit for a building to think about is looking at that general condition number. If you have one contractor that's 30 or 40% less than the other contractors, right, chances are that they may not have the proper insurance coverage, right, because we're all factoring in some level of percentage of our premium we pay in that general condition number.
Makes complete sense. And I've seen that happen, and the way things have unraveled because of that. So that's a good point. So also on you had mentioned that on the back end, so the construction project itself, usually goes relatively smoothly, and then I guess just on the back end, there's sometimes some hitches. So what are some of the things that sort of prevent a project from getting closed out?
Yeah, so a couple things. The engineers are pretty good at making sure that there's a punch list available, made aware to the property manager, board, and contractor. But what tends to happen through that is, as you're doing the punch list, a board or property manager says, "Hey, I have a sidewalk flag that I'd like you to just cut out and do for me." Or, I have a railing inside. I would just like for you to give me a proposal to paint. I certainly recommend that the contractors focus on the scope of work that they have been hired to do and that the engineer is going to oversee. Two parts of that is, one, the engineer has to file this with the DOB, and second, you're going to be paying for an engineer's fee and time to oversee all this work. So having them oversee my little sidewalk flag that they're going to do, or painting of railings, is, in my mind, flushing money down the toilet. So why do that?
Makes complete sense to me. So on a personal level, Eric, I know you're a big New York Giants football fan, like I am, and Daniel Jones, his contract is up. His rookie contract is ending, as well as Saquon Barkley's, I believe. So what's your feeling on those two players, and whether the Giants should re-sign them?
You were really kind of undercutting me there by saying I'm a big fan. You know how big of a fan I am. I'm excited. I think Jones is going to re-sign. I'm cautiously optimistic they'll come to a long-term deal. Barkley, 50-50. If I were to kind of go with my, kind of give a guess, I would say they sign him, but it's going to be really close.
Right. Well, I think we can't complain. The Giants made the playoffs this past year, so I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know if you had bigger aspirations for them, but I thought it went pretty well.
You know what? I think, probably similar to you, that night of the Eagles, I had, images of making the NFC Championship, making the Super Bowl, and going on that run, and they were quickly dashed with after the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, so, wasn't much.
But I think you said it right. It was a great run. It was a fun season, and it's nice to be a proud Giants fan.
Yeah, it looks like they have a good head coach, so things are heading in the right direction finally.
Definitely.
Eric, it's been great speaking with you today. I'm sure everyone listening in and watching has enjoyed this conversation. Where can people contact you and learn more about Castcapa?
Sure. So you can go on our website at www.castcapa.com. to take a look at some prior projects we've completed, as well as testimonials from our customers. And you could also reach me by email at my last name, Petrizzo, Petrizzo, at Castcapa.com.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Eric. Be well.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this content, please click like and subscribe. And remember to make every day great.